She could see the tremor in his jaw, the hesitation of someone who had never done this before. He asked softly, "Can I kiss you?" "Yes," she said inaudibly. And then, softly, their lips met.
Welcome to Mafia Love Story, where passion meets the power. If you crave steamy romance mixed with intense crime thriller drama, you're in the right place. Ready to get hooked on your next obsession? Don't forget to like this story, subscribe for the next chapter, and tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get dangerous.
Some people are born ordinary, while some are wired differently. Doris Ego had always known she was different. By the time she was 10, she could take apart an old computer, rebuild it, and use it to slip quietly into the invisible corridors of the internet. While other children played games, she played with algorithms. While others feared error messages, she saw patterns and possibilities. In the cramped room of her family's home in Lagos, she found her kingdom, a humming desktop, blinking routers, and endless code. Her mother called it obsession, Doris called it freedom. The world outside was loud and unpredictable, but in the digital world, logic ruled. She could fix what was broken there. She had started hacking out of curiosity, small games, local networks, then digital puzzles. But everything changed the day her aunt lost all her savings to a phishing scam. The email had looked official, the link seemed real, and with one click, everything vanished. Doris watched her aunt cry, in silence, unable to fight invisible thieves. That night, something hardened inside the young girl. She decided she would fight back. By the time she was 18, Doris had become known in hidden online circles as Nia, a name whispered among victims of internet fraud. She was the mysterious Nigerian hacker who exposed fake job scams, shut down phishing domains, and educated thousands through her small YouTube channel called Demonet. Her videos were simple but powerful: how to recognize a scam email, how to verify messages, how to stop being afraid of technology. But behind her educational crusade, she was also gathering data, monitoring patterns, tracing financial flows that moved between Africa, Europe, and Asia. That was how she stumbled upon something terrifyingly organized: a Korean-based cybercrime syndicate known as Onyx Web. Onyx wasn't just a group of online scammers. They were a digital empire built on social engineering, identity theft, and money laundering. They used deepfake technology to impersonate real people, created fake love interests to deceive victims, and moved stolen money through hundreds of shell companies. Their operations were global, sophisticated, and ruthless. For years, international agencies had failed to catch them. They were ghosts behind screens, untouchable. But Doris saw something others didn't: a small mistake in their network logs, a pattern of reused metadata, a trace of language inconsistency that pointed to Seoul. She began quietly investigating. Night after night, she mapped their connections, the IPs, the money trails, the middlemen. That was when she noticed one unusual user frequently posting on underground hacker forums under the name Suho. Unlike the others, Suho didn't boast about scams or brag about money. He asked strange questions, moral ones. Do you ever feel guilty? What if the victims were your family? Doris replied once, anonymously, and from that single reply, something began. Their messages turned into conversations. Suho was witty, intelligent, and disturbingly self-aware. He spoke of loneliness and a world filled with greed, of wanting to do good, but not knowing how. Doris didn't trust him, but she was drawn to his vulnerability. She had spent so long fighting faceless criminals that she had forgotten some of them might have hearts. She didn't know that Suho was Lee Dong-wook, the heir to Onyx Web, the son of its founder. Dong-wook had grown up surrounded by digital corruption. His father was a king in the shadows, his empire built on deceit and data theft. To Dong-wook, Crime wasn't rebellion, it was inheritance. But he had never been comfortable with it. Where his father saw money, he saw victims. Where his colleagues saw numbers, he saw names. When he met Nia online, her intelligence challenged him. Her words made him question everything. Doris's hacking instincts kept her cautious. She never revealed her true identity, not her face or name. But the connection deepened. They exchanged long messages about the morality of hacking, about using skills for good, about what it meant to live in a world powered by lies. For the first time, Dong-wook felt something real. And for the first time, Doris allowed herself to feel understood. Weeks passed, and Doris began to suspect who he might be. His knowledge of the inner workings of Onyx Web was too specific. The names he mentioned, the files he referenced, matched the patterns she had traced. It terrified her, but it also gave her a chance. Through him, she could infiltrate the heart of the syndicate. What started as curiosity turned into strategy. She used every ounce of her intelligence to lead the conversations in ways that revealed more, not by tricking him, but by making him trust her completely. Dong-wook, unaware of her true motives, opened up entirely. He told her about Project Mirror, a new operation that would use artificial intelligence and facial recognition to create deepfake victims, fake people to collect real money. When Doris realized the scale of it, she felt sick. Millions of innocent people would be targeted. She knew she couldn't stop it alone. But she had an ally in Dong-wook, even if he didn't yet know it. Slowly, she began feeding him small truths, stories about victims, real people whose lives were destroyed by scams. One night, she sent him a video of a widow from Enugu who had lost everything to a fake investment company linked to Onyx. Dong-wook watched it in silence. He didn't sleep that night. In the following days, he started sending her confidential files, ledgers, transaction histories, and dummy company lists. He wanted her to understand his world. He thought it was a confession of trust. He didn't realize he was handing her evidence. Doris worked tirelessly, connecting dots, cross-referencing data, and encrypting proof. She didn't plan to expose him, not yet. She wanted to bring down Onyx completely. She wanted to destroy the system, not the man she was starting to care for. But secrets can never stay buried. Inside the syndicate, whispers began. Someone was leaking data. Dong-wook's mentor, Park Min-jae, a man whose heart was colder than code, noticed the breach. He suspected the air had grown soft. He ordered an internal trace. When Doris's location pinged on a proxy in Lagos, Min-jae connected the dots. A Nigerian hacker had been interfering with their financial transfers. He smiled darkly. He didn't know who she was, but he knew she was dangerous. Meanwhile, Doris was changing too. She always lived in isolation, a ghost behind her screen, but her growing connection with Dong-wook had reawakened her humanity. He was supposed to be the enemy, but in his messages, she saw a boy trapped in a cage of expectation and crime. And he saw in her something he had never known: freedom. When he finally confessed his real identity, she didn't respond for hours. She felt betrayal, anger, heartbreak, but she also saw opportunity. He wasn't just the heir, he was the key. They met for the first time in person in a quiet Seoul cafe. Doris had flown in secretly, under the guise of a digital summit. She was scared at first because this would be her first solo international trip, but the thought of meeting her pen pal, Lee Dong-wook, gave her butterflies in her tummy. When Dong-wook saw her, the girl behind Naya, he froze. She was nothing like he imagined. Young, composed, eyes sharper than glass, yet warm with an intelligence that could burn or heal. But the strongest impression of all was how beautiful she looked. She was so pretty that his cheeks turned red anytime he smiled. He apologized for everything his family had done. She told him she didn't want apologies. She wanted justice. He asked what that meant. She said it meant bringing everything down, even if it destroyed both of them. He didn't hesitate. Then I'll help you, he said quietly. Together, they began an operation of digital rebellion. Dong-wook provided insider information, safe access points, financial trail maps, key personnel lists. Doris turned the data into digital forensics reports. She anonymized it, encrypted it, and began feeding it to law enforcement and journalists through secure channels. For weeks, they moved like shadows, dismantling Onyx's network piece by piece. Accounts were frozen, shell companies collapsed. Victims were traced and compensated. For the first time, Onyx Web began to crumble. Macau shimmered like a city suspended between sin and salvation. The air was heavy with perfume, power, and lies, and inside the Sky Tower, on the topmost floor, Lee Do-han sat behind a wide glass table that overlooked the city's feverish lights. He was a man whose smile could close billion-dollar deals and whose silence could end empires. The heir to a dynasty of clean money that had long been tainted by shadows. He was the kind of man who believed that loyalty was a currency stronger than gold, and that betrayal was a debt that could only be paid in blood. Across from him sat 3 Chinese men dressed in sleek suits, representatives of the Dragon Cybercrime Syndicate, the most elusive online fraud network in Asia. They spoke in low tones, their Mandarin smooth as oil, their intentions sharp as glass. Their leader, Zhao Lian, leaned forward with an elegant smirk. If Onyx and Dragon unite, the world will have no firewall strong enough to hold us back. Our codes will rule the markets, our networks will own governments. Lee Do-han nodded slowly. He had been building toward this moment for years, a merger that would turn their syndicate from a Korean powerhouse into a global digital empire. A merger that would give Onyx the final key to dominance. But before he could answer, his phone vibrated. A private, encrypted line. He excused himself, stepping toward the wide window as the neon lights painted his face in shades of blue and red. When he saw the caller ID, Park Min-jae, a storm crossed his expression. He answered, "Speak." Min-jae's voice came cold and hard, like steel cracking through ice. "Chairman Lee, your son is the reason Onyx is collapsing. He's the snitch. He's been feeding our codes to the girl, the Nigerian hacker." For a moment, Lee Do-han didn't breathe. He stared out over the glittering Macau harbor, the words twisting like smoke around him. "That can't be. Dong-wook is my blood. He knows what loyalty means." Min-jae's reply came almost like a sneer. "Then your blood has gone bad. And according to Onyx law, a traitor's blood must be erased." The line went dead. Lee Do-han's hands tightened into fists. The room seemed to close around him, suffocating with betrayal and disbelief. His business partners watched him carefully, sensing the sudden shift in the air. He excused himself abruptly, stepping into the private lounge where his composure broke for the first time in years. He called his son once, twice, then again. No answer. When Dong-wook finally picked up, his voice was low, rough with guilt and exhaustion. "Abba." "What have you done, Dong-wook?" Lee Do-han's tone was a restrained explosion, trembling beneath its own weight. "Do you have any idea what this means? Park Min-jae wants your head." Silence. Then a breath. "I did what I had to do." "For what? For a girl?" Do-han's voice cut sharp as glass. "For some street hacker who has poisoned your mind?" Dong-wook didn't reply. But in the silence, his father could hear something stronger than fear. Conviction. "You will undo it," Lee Do-han ordered. "You will find the girl and make her reverse everything. You will prove your loyalty." Dong-wook's eyes flicked to Doris, who sat on the edge of the old leather couch in her small Airbnb hideout in Seoul. The city outside was quiet, but inside, the air was heavy with unspoken words. "I can't do that, Appa. Dongwook said finally. Because she's right. Onyx deserves to fall. And before Lee Do-han could answer, the line went dead again. He stared at his reflection in the dark glass window, the face of a man who had just lost his son to the very world he built. Meanwhile, in that dimly lit Airbnb, Doris and Dongwook sat in silence. The monitors hummed softly around them, their glow casting shifting blue patterns across their faces. The city's heartbeat pulsed outside the window, muffled, distant, unaware that two young people were rewriting the fate of empires. Doris could feel the tension between them, heavy, magnetic. Every time their eyes met, it was like the air grew hotter, thicker. She didn't know why her pulse raced, her heart beating like 1,000 drums. Why did he look at her like that? Maybe it was because he was supposed to be the enemy. Or maybe because for the first time in her life, she felt seen. Not as a hacker, not as a weapon, but as a person. Dongwook broke the silence first. You shouldn't have stayed, he said softly, not looking at her. You should have run. She tilted her head, a small smile ghosting her lips. And leave you to die alone? I'm not that heartless. He turned, his dark eyes catching hers, the storm in them impossible to ignore. You don't understand. They'll come for me first. And then for you. Then let them come. I've been fighting ghosts on the internet since I was 10. Real ones can't scare me now. He laughed, quiet, hollow, but genuine. For the first time in years, he looked free. Their eyes lingered, too long. There was a pull, invisible but undeniable, drawing them closer. Doris felt her breath hitch as his hand brushed hers, just for a second, and the contact burned like electricity. She wanted to look away, but couldn't. Something inside her, something she didn't even know existed, ached for that moment to never end. He leaned forward, uncertain, but drawn by gravity stronger than fear. She could see the tremor in his jaw, the hesitation of someone who had never done this before. He asked softly, "Can I kiss you?" "Yes," she said inaudibly. And then, softly, their lips met. It wasn't perfect. It was trembling, hesitant, real. It was the kind of kiss that felt like a magnet, unable to break. Time stood still. Her soft, orange hands met his, lost in each other's gaze. His legs felt weak when she reached for his lenses, removing his visual aid. At that moment, he felt freedom, peace, and love all at once. For Lee Dong-wook, it was the first time he understood what it meant to feel alive. For Doris, it was the first time she realized that love could be as dangerous as any code she'd ever written. When they pulled apart, their foreheads rested together, both of them breathing fast, the world around them shrinking to the sound of their own heartbeats. "So this is what trouble feels like," she whispered. "You have no idea," he replied, his smile soft, trembling. Outside, the wind carried the faint sound of sirens. Inside, two hearts had already decided their fate long before the worlds caught up. From that night on, everything changed. Onyx wasn't just crumbling from the outside anymore. It was being dismantled from within by two people who should have never crossed paths, but did. Love, betrayal, and power were now tangled in one fragile thread. And somewhere across the ocean, in Macau, Lee Do-han realized that he had just lost control of the empire he spent his life building. But Min Jae was no fool. He knew Lee Do-han would never give up his son, and he was aware that if he played his cards right, this would be an opportunity to oust Lee Do-han and take over Onyx. He traced down Dong-wook. In a violent confrontation, Dong-wook was beaten and forced to confess. He tried to protect Doris by feeding Min Jae false information, but Min Jae already knew who she was. Doris was ambushed at a safe house, captured, and brought to an isolated facility. They wanted her to reverse the damage, to erase the data leaks. She refused. For hours they threatened her, tried to break her spirit. But Doris had learned one truth. Fear is only power if you give it permission. Unbeknownst to her captors, she had already set in motion an automated digital trigger, a timed release of evidence files to global cybercrime units. By the time Min-jae realized what was happening, it was too late. The world had already seen the truth. The Korean authorities, in collaboration with international agencies, launched a massive cybercrime sting. The name Onyx Web trended globally, associated with digital corruption, online scams, and dark web fraud. The group's assets were seized and its leaders were arrested. Min-jae tried to flee but was caught at the border. Dong-wook turned himself in, offering testimony in exchange for leniency. His cooperation helped to dismantle the remaining network cells across Asia and Europe. Doris returned to Nigeria under protective custody. The world hailed her as a hero, the teenage hacker who brought down a billion-dollar syndicate. But she didn't see herself as one. She had lost someone she cared about, even if that person had once been part of the darkness. Months later, she saw Dong-wook again. He was thinner, quieter, but free. His sentence reduced for his cooperation. They met in silence, and for a long moment, neither spoke. He told her he was trying to rebuild his life. She told him she was starting a global digital literacy foundation to fight internet fraud. They shared a look that carried every emotion words couldn't hold: regret, love, and something like peace. When he left, she whispered a single sentence: "You gave me the keys to their world. Now I'll use them to build a new one." Years later, Doris became a symbol of cyber justice. Universities invited her to speak about the ethical side of hacking. Governments sought her advice on digital safety and social engineering prevention. Her foundation, the DIMA Network, educated millions on phishing, identity theft, and online safety. Her message was always the same. Technology is not the enemy. It's the mirror of who we are. The code doesn't choose. We do. She never saw Dong-wook again. Some said he left Korea to live under a new name, dedicating his wealth to anonymous donations. Others said he vanished into the same digital fog his family once rolled. But sometimes, Doris received encrypted messages, small notes written in code only the two of them understood. Simple, short, and filled with meaning. One read, "You were right. The net can heal." And every time she read those words, she smiled. Because she had learned that even in a world of cybercrime, betrayal, and dark web corruption, humanity could still shine through the cracks of code.